Senator Chuck Schumer, he's canceling a bunch of established book events, citing security concerns, even though there's no evidence of that. In reality, he just doesn't want to face any tough questions. Jon Stewart, as always, sounding off. Let's take a listen.
Did Schumer get anything from Republicans in exchange for those Dem votes?
He did not. Senator Schumer, no disrespect, but you are a disgrace to Jewish stereotypes about financial negotiations. You're going to keep at it. Keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And what? This was it. This was the it that you would have been keeping at. The keeping of the it. It's not the keeping of the it. That's the issue. It's what the it. Don't you have to start it to keep at it? If this wasn't it, then what it? What is it if this not be it? But apparently the grand plan is Dems keep fecklessly complaining until the 48 approval comes down to 40. Which is a plan, but it's forgetting one crucial piece of information in Schumer's popularity calculation.
Devastating, cascading poll numbers for Democrats. Only 27% of voters have a positive view of the party. The lowest favorability rating in the history of NBC's polling.
You're at 27%. You've got to get Trump to lose 8 points of popularity just for you to get to the point where you're 13 points below him.
13 points below. He shredded him as only Stewart can. He did a good job. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those with Schumer. I just don't get what is going on. On a policy level, I genuinely do understand it, as I said. They're like, look, if we shut the government down, then Elon and Trump will get to decide who's essential or not essential. That's actually a pretty good argument. But the issue is that it just is all couched for Schumer in this, in this sense of he's trying to pretend that he's standing up for Trump, but he's also not even dispositionally planning anything months ahead of time. Like if we had come to this outcome, I think with the liberal planning for 2 months or so before this, and this still is how we ended up, but at least people would say, okay, we fought, we tried this, we extracted concession. It would be a very, very different scenario. But here, it's just they got caught flat-footed. Now they look like idiots. And then even worse, Schumer is now doing what they're accusing Republicans of doing, which is hiding from angry constituents.
Right.
You're a hypocrite.
Oh, you're not buying his security concerns?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on. I mean, that's the thing, is he provoked a mass liberal, moderate, progressive, whole of party backlash. I think he's got Matt Iglesias on his side, and that's about it at this point, because across the board, they want to see people fight. This is the only moment when you have leverage. You have known that for months to come. Where was the plan? Where was the fight? I mean, to me, we played this on the Friday show, and Saagar, you probably saw it too. Chris Hayes laughing in his face.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I did.
When he says basically we got to fight him at every step. And he's like, what are you talking about? You're literally here on my show. This is not how he phrased it, but this is how it went in my head. You're literally here on my show to announce your intention to not fight. So fight every step of the way. Where is the fight? Where is this theoretical fight? And so I think there are, in my estimation, 3 things going on with Chuck Schumer. Number one, he's old. He has an outdated mental model about politics. He thinks this is all just politics as usual. Shutdowns are bad. He's still operating on a mental model from circa, let's say 1984. Okay?
Yes.
I think that's number one. I think number two, that idiotic James Carville op-ed in the New York Times that instructed Democrats to lay down and play dead and let Trump make his own mess and not make any sort of affirmative case against him or fight him in any way. I think that Carville and others actually buy into that, which is idiotic, the polar opposite of the way that Republicans have effectively fought Democrats whenever Democrats get any semblance of power. So I think that's part of it. And number 3, yeah, I do think the fact that it was Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, the 2 senators from New York, who led the charge to cave at a time when Wall Street was very on edge. Stock market went down a lot last week. We're worried what our stocks might do if the government shuts down for a period of time. Yeah, I don't think that that is an accident when you look at the fact that both of those senators drive a lot of their power and their campaign contributions from Wall Street. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to say they would have been responsive to those concerns and that it's not an accident that those two that ultimately lead the charge here. So yeah, New York Times even skeptical of him on his strategy here. But they also asked him, so his book tour is supposed to be about this whole anti-Semitism thing, and he was supposed to have his first event with Richie Torres, et cetera. And they asked him about, well, isn't it legitimate to criticize Israel? And isn't it legitimate even, a UN body has suggested that these were genocidal acts? Take a listen to what he had to say in response.
Hamas made it much, and no one blames Hamas. I mean, the news reports every day for a while showed Palestinians being hurt and killed. And, I see the pictures of a little Palestinian boy without a leg, or one sticks in my head, there was a little girl, like 11, 12, crying because her parents were both killed. I ache for that. But on the news reports, they never mention that so much of the time, Hamas used the Palestinian people as human shields. And so when these protesters come and accuse Israel of genocide, I say, what about Hamas? They don't even want to talk about Hamas. Again, genocide is a vicious, vicious word to use.
I will say it's a word that a UN special committee has used.
Please, the UN has been anti-Israel, anti-Semitically against Israel, double standard. Moynihan was my idol. He became famous when in 1976, they tried to pass a resolution, Zionism is racism. To say that the Jewish people should not have a state when every other people should have a state is anti-Semitism, the old double standard ipso facto. And the international organizations, I have no faith in them being fair.
I mean, I could spend an hour dissecting. There is nothing wrong with opposing ethno-states, number one. Yeah. Number two, his claim is that the news reports are too pro-Hamas. Have you read these news reports? The way that they twist and turn themselves and tie themselves into knots to avoid laying any responsibility for the mass slaughter of women and children and non-combatants and innocent civilians and starving them. I mean, Israel's currently starving them, has instituted a complete siege. And the way these news reports seek to avoid laying any blame and responsibility isn't, okay, so to claim that they're too pro-Hamas, that's insane. Not to mention his whole thing about people never want to talk about Hamas and how they're using them for human. You know why the focus of the protests is our government is funding Israel. We are not funding Hamas. So yes, we take a great interest in the way that we are sending bombs to a country that is dropping them on top of innocent civilians. I think that's reasonable. And then the claim, genocide is anti-Semitic and the UN is Hamas. It's just, you can't make it up. He hits every single note. And I also have to say, Saagar, to insist that the one of the largest problems that the country faces right now is the scourge of anti-Semitism. There is no evidence to back that up. And to the extent, and I think it's probably true, that anti-Semitism has spiked, perhaps it has to do with people like you who are constantly tying all Jewish people to the actions of a state that is currently starving and bombing babies. Maybe that has something to do with the alleged spike in anti-Semitic sentiment.
It's a moral panic completely. It's you change the definition of anti-Semitism to include criticism of Israel, then sure, anti-Semitism is a huge problem. But if you're talking about actual hatred of Jews, it's ridiculous. This idea that there are literally roving gangs of anti-Semites across America is so preposterous. And beyond that, you're obviously watching how many of these Jewish students themselves are called anti-Semitic. So the whole thing, by Schumer's own standard, a lot of these Jews are anti-Semitic, which I love watching people twist and turn in the wind on that one. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a complete and total false moral panic, and it is one used to basically use the legacy of that from the past to bring this insane censorship and dialogue, restricting dialogue here in America to create a political environment that is beneficial for a foreign government. And when you put it that way, that's when people start to get real quiet and real uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay, great Counterpoint show for everybody tomorrow. We'll see you all then.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.